is just power cycle the console because roughly at the start of the game, you've got this very limited time before it'll start spawning in. And this is one of those old school hard RPGs that will just murder you. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to be playing as a shaman, by the way. Thanks for asking there, Bob. That's because the shaman just starts with the most amount of money, and you really have a very, very weak main character here. So you don't have anything real good for his classes.
Shaman best class.
We'll get 3 shamans. That's how good it's going to be. And let's start in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, diving here into the dreaded city of Redmond, Washington, where most of this game is going to be set here. We've got our main character who really doesn't know much about what's going on. Your brother has been murdered, you're trying to find out why, and now I'm going to steal all of his stuff off because I don't really need this. Money is kind of a big thing throughout a lot of the game, and so by selling the equipment off, you just have an easier way of getting through these earlier quests. Go ahead, grab your brother's last remnants that they were storing there, and let's go start trying to unravel this mystery a little bit here. Main method of transportation, of course, the taxi system. Going over to Puyallup here. Highspurs can tell us all about how that traffic situation is looking like right now.
You know, I've been to Redmond a couple of times. This looks exactly like it. Puyallup, maybe it's missing a few extra boxes around, you know.
So basically the Shadowrun universe set about 50 years into the future from when it first came out, and they kind of keep tracking the universe as time goes on. So now it's in like the 2070s for the modern Shadowrun, but it all kind of started in 2012, which is when the Mayan calendar ended and magic returned back to the world. They've kind of this concept of ages where you have different series of events throughout the world that eventually recur. And this is the time when magic is returned, and so everybody is turned back into elves and orcs and things. But it's still set in the future, so you get this kind of Blade Runner mix all the way. By the way, this is a Death Warp. So we're just getting the introduction out of the way there. And once we have that, then we start getting into 3 branching side quests out through here. So we'll be kind of doing each of those in turn. So first, back to Redmond here for a second. Got to pick up our first companion here. Shadowrun is all about really a party system, and that's why I like the Genesis version. For pencil and paper, getting a party is really how you get everything started here. And I'm going to grab Ricky, who's another shaman, just like our main character. But Ricky's actually useful, and the reason is because he's got this invisibility spell, allow me to sneak past things. We had some decently good luck not getting encounters prior to picking Ricky up here. And now we have invisibility to hopefully sneak through about the first half of the game overall. Just like our main character is going to sell off all of Ricky's stuff because we don't need any of this.
So why are they Gator Shaman?
So these are just different classes. Like Ricky is a rat shaman, and his ability is to get bonus to invisibility here, which is what I'm taking advantage of quite a lot. Invisibility basically means that all these random side quests, which normally happen anywhere between like 10 and 40 seconds, intervals will not be taking place, and I can also sneak through corporations because the guards are not going to see me. Dropping into Council Island here. This is actually Mercer Island in the real world, but it was renamed Council Island after the Indian tribes kind of took over this part of the country here. They formed their own country, breaking off from the U.S. after the events of Shadowrun started. Grabbing Walking Bear here. Walking Bear, 3rd shaman. This is like something you should never do if you're playing Shadowrun. Triple shaman's a terrible, terrible party, but we're just taking her stuff off for more cash there. And that's something that we can do because you have like a temporary rental of runners, and they will start off with decent equipment, but they do have a fixed inventory. So when you dismiss them and come back, they're going to have nothing because you already took all their stuff off. So it's only a one-time thing that you can pull it off on. And over here to Salish. So this is the real Indian lands. We're not welcome here yet. We have to do a couple of quests to build up friendship over time in order to get access to some of the other areas back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got to count out a lot of these prompts. So obviously, I'm not reading all of the dialogue coming up. It's all these ABC type choices, because that's the Genesis controller. So you have the storyline you're kind of getting through Shadowrun, mostly told through these little interactions here. That's why I'm trying to explain a little bit of it as we go out throughout the game. All right, out of there, over to Renraku. Renraku is one of the main corporations in the Shadowrun universe, so this doesn't have a real-world equivalent, even though it sounds a little bit like Renton. It's not, as far as I know, based on anything in that part of Seattle. She just took off Shadowrun, or Walking Bear stuff. Go ahead, kick her out of the party, you don't need her anymore, and gonna use some of this money I bought to upgrade the RAM of our computer, because we've got a really slow computer. got to get some more RAM here, and that'll be used in our first hacking mission coming up. So let's go ahead and get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of those upgrades. That storage capacity basically allows me to steal more confidential documents, which we're going to be selling for money. I've only got one time I actually do a run throughout the game. This is normally like a really core mechanic of how Shadowrun works. We're also going to start another one of the side quests here. This is Caleb's little area here. Caleb's one of the many Mr. Johnsons in the game. Mr. Johnsons are basically the people that give you quests. They're kind of they're not quite like the innkeepers of Dungeons and Dragons, but you kind of get the concept for it.
So do the side quests have any relevancy to the main story, or is it just for money and gear and stuff?
There's 2 side quests that are not part of the main storyline, and we'll do one of those 2, and I'll talk about it a little bit later when we get to it. Go ahead, grab Rihanna here. Rihanna is an elven vampire computer hacker. She's awesome. One of the best deckers, which is the class that you are when you're a computer hacker in this game, that you can get for a temporary hire. And that way I don't have any actual computer hacking skills on my main character. It's kind of a waste when you think about like all the combat stuff that you need. All right, save in slot 2, just in case the game crashes later. This is necessary for that. No, I got a random encounter in like 3 thousandths of a second there. And we're going to go ahead, jump into one of these runs. I've actually mapped out every single one of these maps. There's 24 in the game itself, and 12 of them are listed maps. This is a blue 4, which means I already know it's good. So it's an unlisted one. Let's see which one that I get here. Okay, so I'm coming out of the bottom and to the left. All right, so we have the CPU in the front. This is one of the better ones overall. So I'm going to do a glitch here to avoid having to do this fight here. Normally, CPUs are well protected by what are called ICEs, which are the intrusion control mechanisms. But by retreating out of the CPU, going back to this node that I've already been to, and then retreating back onto the CPU, it places me on top of the CPU, and it doesn't know what to do here. So it says, oh, you must have beaten it, even though I haven't. I can go over to the data store in the back, and this is where they keep all of their confidential information. So we're going to go ahead and pop this data store open. I'm just going to attack. This is basically like Pepsi Man crossed with Lawnmower Man, if you've seen either of those games, in terms of the style that we got here. And it's just a straight-up dice roll for each of these hits. So I'm using my attack skill. It's using its attack skill. A relatively straightforward one. You didn't get to see Deception, which is a cool one. Allows you to avoid the battles. That's the little mask to the right there in terms of my moveset. But probably about like 7 or 8 hits in here, and then we'll start grabbing files. So I think, Bob, you got a chance to get like a donation comment or 2 in here while I'm doing this.
Gotcha, Camera. So, I have a $25 from Raving Sock Monkey, who says, man, it's odd seeing Geyer run at this time of day, but I'm glad I can donate during his run.
Thank you very much, Raving Sock Monkey.
And Mirioki says, Geyer, think I caught Darren embezzling from the Melmond Relief Fund again? Can we put this to a better cause, yeah?
All right, I guess we'll have to punish Dan later, but thank you very much for the donation as well.
Doesn't Dan get enough punishment?
Not enough ever. All right, so we're into the data store. Let's go ahead and steal some data. I can hold 5 total files with 200 size. I got 1 for 60 right now. Let's go into the first level alert. That's okay, we can reset that. 2 for 80, second level alert. Let's go ahead and cancel it out. So this is another function of the CPU, which I'm going to use the double retreat glitch for to be able to get back on top of the node. So even though I did get on top of it before, it doesn't continue to have that. And there's 3 levels of alerts, basically. There's a passive alert, active alert, and then you just get kicked out. So you really don't want that to happen, which is why I'm going ahead to cancel this one. Don't really want to take a chance on getting kicked out early. So back into the data store. Here was 2 for 80, that was that, right? I remember getting a 60 and a 20. So let's go continue transferring some data.
2 for 80, I believe.
3 for 120. This is just to get all the money that I'll need for the entire game. 4 for 170. I can maybe squeeze 1 more file out. Oh yeah, 5 for 190. Pretty good. I can hold maximum 5 files and 200 size. So we almost perfectly nailed that. And our orange data store, the colors are blue, green, orange, red in terms of difficulty, then 1 through 7 for the levels within each color. Based on the color, that's going to determine how valuable these files are. So orange is pretty good. I was routed out just in case I got a green data store. And I'm going to crash the system. And this is something that you normally do inside of corporations to unlock all the doors. But the game gets really confused because I'm not in a corporation. I'm on the overworld right now. And so what it's just done is unlocked every single door in the entire game. So now I don't have to worry about key cards or other fun stuff like that. And so we can actually break a whole lot of the storyline as a result.
Wait, they didn't think about the fact that you could crash a regular system Just they start like, why would anyone crash a system that's not in a corporation? We're not even going to think about this.
I mean, these are the things that, like, when you're doing video game development, it can actually be really tough to test. One of the things that happens, though, this is just an in-memory bit of storage that it has there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so if I reset, like even a soft reset will clear that flag out, which is why I had to do that safety save, just in case anything accidentally happens, I can go right back to that hacking run. And I can reload my game, because loading does not clear the flag out.
Oh.
And that way we're able to continue on if the unfortunate event happens of something going wrong during this.
Okay, so it's just a temporary flag. It's not.
Yeah, it's just in memory for the console until you reset.
Okay, at least that makes a little more sense than just saying, hey, we're going to unlock every door because you decide to crash a random computer.
I mean, that's basically how the real world works, too. So we're in Mitsuhama Corporation right now, which is one of our first hacking runs here. I need this to get Aragorn, who's one of the Indian tribe people, so we're getting some friendship built up by rescuing him and taking him back to the tribe. But first, I'm going to go ahead and disable the security cameras in here, because they're a really big pain on the 5th floor. Yeah, I didn't get either Joshua or stuck on the wall there. If you can get one of them stuck in the wall, then it's a little bit of time saved for not having to walk back around.
So why are you crashing these corporations? Like, are you the hero, a better hero than Quest for Glory, or?
I mean, that's basically how heroes are in this game. The computer programmers are like #1 in this universe. Well, that and people that shoot people in the face. Those are like the top 2 professions in the world now.
I wouldn't call Shadowrunners heroes.
Well, we called the Quest for Glory guy hero.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, these are probably more heroic in some senses, as long as you've got a really strong sense of capitalism. All right, so we got the cameras turned off. I took a couple of failures on my electronic skills. We never had a critical failure, which would have set the alarm off there. Go ahead on to 5th floor. That's the camera that's really annoying, and this is a guard that's also really annoying. About 95% of the time, you recognize the guard patterns. Every once in a while, it just throws in this crazy extra guard that you don't know what to do with. Go ahead, grab Aragorn there. And let's try and sneak out. So this is one of the few times where I am not going to death warp out of Corporation. So I got to be very, very sneaky going through here. Even though I'm invisible, casting invisibility again counts as a hostile action. And so they would trigger an alarm and go and fight me, and then you get locked out of everything. Also, when I go back down to the 1st floor here, there's a guard that spawns directly on top of you. So I have to cast invisibility randomly between 12 and 48 seconds is the duration for it, so it's really unpredictable about how long this is going to last, and I just have to get to the end of this hallway down here. Well, a little bit past his line of sight, and then we should be good. So like right now, we're probably fine with invisibility wore off at this point. And I'll do it right there at the corner, and we have completed our first corporation run.
So the goal of the game is just to get rich.
That was one thing we had to do, just to be able to afford all of the taxi rides, because these are really, really expensive.
Yeah, they're expensive. I can definitely agree to that.
No Uber in the 5th world.
Yeah. Bob, since you know Shadowrun, can you tell us a little bit about the world concepts? I know I explained it at the beginning kind of briefly, but you've got some pen and paper experience. Jump in there.
So you asked about the different types of shaman, and why the reason why they're called different things is the different animal spirits within the world that rose up when magic came back. Each one personifies a different sort of power and ability, which is why a rat shaman or a shark shaman or something like that would have choose a very specific focus. Also, what it tended to do is, instead of one of the things that is very notable is when magic returned to the world, it didn't evolve people into orcs and elves and trolls. It devolved them back to the way that they were when magic was originally in the world, and that's when dragons started to come around. And if you learn one thing in Shadowrun, it's never deal with a dragon. Well, 2 things in Shadowrun: it's never deal with a dragon and geek the mage.
All right, yeah, we're going to be dealing with a dragon, and our mage is pretty geeky. So we got most of that taken care of here. We're 1 for 2. And now I'm going to just drop in here. So I'm going to go start the start quest. You asked about side quests as well. There's 2 side quests in the game that are really in-depth. Like, there's a whole bunch of like just quick stuff that you do. You go on a run. It says, oh, hack into this corporation, go grab these files and so on. But there's 2 extensive side quests. One is Stark. Stark is this classical prototype character who has got really bad stats, but he starts at level 99. So basically like fully upgraded. And for a speedrun, that's amazing, because we're not bothering to level up at all. We're not even going to see the karma system or level ups at all until like maybe like 3/4 of the way through the game. And that's unfortunate because it's a really cool system that they got here for Shadowrun. It's a super deep, like if you know Dungeons and Dragons, like all those concepts are going to be having analogs here in the Shadowrun universe.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of missing out on a lot of the core gameplay just because we're skipping by all of that. We're going to be super under-leveled and super under-geared throughout most of it. Right now I'm going to walk over to the Shinsharak, which is where the Indian elder tribes are. Basically, we're going to do this trip a couple times throughout the game. As we gain progressive amounts of favor, they're going to unlock additional parts of the quest storyline. This is going to let me get the second of the 3 big side quests, or second of the big 3 main quests out of the way. And we'll also be advancing the start quest. So I'm doing these all interleaved together to reduce my total travel time.
Yeah, I got a lot of knowledge on D&D, but sadly, my knowledge of Shadowrun is not that well.
It's a really cool system. This is set in 2nd edition Shadowrun, which is way, way old. They're right now in 5th edition. They have announced 6th edition is coming out. So they're still like actively making Shadowrun rule updates. They're doing rule books and all that. Just to get a helicopter ride back here to grab the quick return trip on there. And now I'm going to go back to Renraku. We've got some more selling to do. Done with Rihanna. Her 1 hacking run is done, so I can go ahead and sell off most of her stuff. I'm keeping these med kits in case we need to do some healing a little bit, so I'm going to actually transfer those on to Joshua, our main character. I think I've ever said his name before. Now you know the main character.
Wait, we have a main character?
Kind of. He's really terrible.
Well, if you gain a few levels, I'm sure he'd be useful.
If you level up, and this is really what you're supposed to do for the runs throughout the game. So as you do the runs, you get these things called karma points. You get like 1 or 2 karma points per run. You get like 1/16 of a karma point per killing thing. So combat's like not your intended way of advancement, but we're gonna get all of like our karma points from just like the main storyline here overall. So that's gonna be what I've got to work with. And you need like for advancement, usually you have like a skill which in the range like 1 to 10, and it's like the same number of points as your skill going up to that you need that many karma points to go and level it up. So those are the type of things they have for the system. And so you've got kind of a choice between whether you want to super specialize in something and it costs really large amounts of karma to upgrade, or if you want to go like a broad generalist. You never want to go broad generalist because that's always the classical RPG trap. If you go generalist, you're going to be really good in the beginning of the game, and then there's some point we just hit a wall.
Yeah,
where
jack of all
you
trades.
gotta have some specialties. So I picked up a guy whose specialty is shooting people in the face, and of course that's really important throughout there. Really, I'm just going to steal his weapon because we got something better. Who is Stark, who's going to be coming soon. We're breaking into Fuji Corporation now. This is where the Cyber Heart is kept, and this is what we need to get Stark into our party. He was part of the same group that your brother was when your brother was killed, and so Stark was injured. Need the Cyber Heart so that he could actually be healthy enough to travel with you, and he's so amazing that you definitely want to do this. I am stuck on top of, I think, Winston Mars there. There we go. Every once in a while, your characters become like non-pass-throughable, so like they actually have collision, and then you have to like delicately untangle from stealing all Winston's stuff because he's not going to need it. Go ahead, kick him out of the party. Let's kick Ricky out as well because we're going to death warp out of here. So I got the Cyber Heart out of that safe. And Joshua, of course, is a beast at combat, so you see him just take out all of these guards. Oh, wait, he's dead.
Hey, he took 2 hits, okay?
I'm actually impressed he took 2. I very, very rarely see him survive more than
He
one.
tanked something, at least.
All right, so conveniently death warp back to the hospital, which is where we need to turn the heart in, so that saved me a bunch of walking there. So now I got the heart turned in. I can grab the trip over here to Puyallup again and pick up Stark finally. And now we don't have to skulk around. Instead of being in the shadows and hiding from everything, we can just blast away. I got the shotgun off of Winston Mars, which is basically the heaviest duty shotgun in the game. It's not actually my favorite, even though it has a little bit more attack power. It's got a really small ammo capacity, so you don't have nearly as many shots. And mostly, for me, just shooting things once is generally enough for the shotgun, and you don't really need the brutal power. We're gonna go here to the Crime Mart, my favorite store in the game because it's just so on the up and up. You have nothing shady at all going on here. There's a whole bunch of illegal equipment and things that you can get, and that's part of the storyline also, is that there's the Lone Star cops, and they will try to confiscate anything illegal, including things like mag key cards, which is normally how you get into those locked doors. So you save up a whole ton of money, you get favor with the syndicate and all that, but you can't actually do anything until you have the trip over there. Actually, let me do one more thing as well. 'cause I don't think
Here's a quick question in chat for you, Guy.
What's up?
Do you intend to vote for Dunkelzahn in 2032?
See, this is only second edition Shadowrun, so you got to keep in mind that some of the lore that has happened in later Shadowrun games is not taking place yet, and that's going to be affecting us a little bit throughout here. But
No, they mean you.
well, I mean, eligibility-wise, you got to be in the right district here. So I don't know if I'm actually able to give the direct vote in there. I also started another side quest here. I should have done that earlier, which is to grab the conversation with Spirit Eyes. You can do that as soon as you go to the Shinsharak to get the Indian favor, and he's starting me off on probably the second biggest RNG after that Matrix run that I just did, which is to grab a whole bunch of monster parts. So we're going to need a Gargoyle Horn as our first one here. And I'll be up in Puyallup that we can get a kind of like the abandoned building, which counts as wilderness, even though you're in the middle of a city. There's a couple of these throughout the game. Another one that has been suggested as one in Seattle, and we still don't know like exactly the spawn rates between the buildings. It feels different. And this is where it's just really tough to figure these out because you have a whole lot of randomness. There is Gargoyles, which is what we want right here. There is Banner Snatches, Yetis, Hellhounds, which we're going to want second. Don't want them right now. And there's also a bunch of random events that can happen throughout here as well. So I'm just going to spin around until I get my Gargoyle. So, Bob, this is a great time to get some donation comments in.
Absolutely. So we have a $100 donation from Zyrak, who says, thank you for all of Dan's airship crashes and assorted other failures over the years. Good luck, Gator Shaman.
Zyrak, thank you very much. And Zyrak has actually been around at our dealer break here, so thank you very much again for the donation.
Speaking of someone else who's here on site, we have Tiny Tim, who says, hey all, really enjoying the event so far, and especially this Shadowrun run. That's a tongue twister. Good luck, Geyer, and cheers.
Thank you very much, Chummer. And I just got the Gargoyle Horn. Second try is pretty good. It's because there's about 4 or 5 is like the average you want to see here. But we still have to do the Hellhounds next, so let's go ahead back to Spirit Eyes to get the second part of the quest done. And you can just keep reading donations, Bob.
Lovely. Echoing what I said earlier, I have a $5 donation from Metal Bear 87, who says, Shadowrun taught me 2 things. Never deal with a dragon and don't trust the elves. Good luck to all the runners, and thank you for this marathon.
Thank you very much for that as well.
I have a $10.24 donation from Chameleus. It says, hey Geyer, Chameleus here. Quick question. Do you happen to know which dungeon floor Dan is currently guarding with his face? I only ask as I'm attempting to go get out and get donuts, and there are a few roan mechs on war mechs with bees. I tried to use Bane strats on them, and now they're putting their hands over their mouths and doing terrible Tom Hardy impersonations. Please send help.
Thank you very much there, Chimelius. And we do actually have some Final Fantasy coming later this week. There's going to be a Final Fantasy 1 Taz for the Nintendo Entertainment System. I will hopefully be there with the Axeman and Dwango AC to talk about that. And it is 4 white mages, which is a lovely, lovely time. So you're going to see some Bane Sword action there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hosting that one too. We have $25 from Monkey's Breath, who says, hey, Geyer, GLHF. Nice and simple.
Thank you very much, Monkey Breath.
Anger Bear donates $5 and says, question for Geyer. How many agamas does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
I believe that an Agama is actually a Tootsie Pop, but there are, as far as I know, only 3,000 Agamas left in the Shadowrun universe. They're now an endangered species, so we're not allowed to kill any of them here. I would love to for the extra experience.
Turbo Dog donates Turbo Dog donates $5. Hey Bob, you forgot the third major rule of Shadowrun: never get in the way of the high threat response unit or the SOS dock wagon. Okay, fair enough.
We have actually seen the dock wagon. You can get the dock wagon after that introduction where we went to the greenhouse and got shot for the very first time. So the dock wagon basically is a wristband that takes you back to the last hospital that you've been. And that's where I'm doing all my Death Wars back to. In this game, Seattle General Hospital is the only hospital that you use it for. But in a pen and paper Shadowrun, that's basically your kind of revival mechanism, is you get the wristband, you get sent back to the hospital if something unpleasant happens, which is usually pretty frequent because this game is extremely brutal. You need giant sacks of dice, and the dice are not kind whenever you have combat for them.
Yeah, at least it makes sense, because like every other game, you die and you end up like in a church or in a hospital bed. It's like, what adventure went into the bottom of a volcano to drag out your bodies just so you can live to fight another day?
And I'm still looking for my Hellhounds here, so Bob, keep up those donations.
I have a donation here from, well, even mentioning his name might be a problem. Mr. MV, he donates $100 and says, "You know what? I'd like a rematch with Warmac."
Thank you very much, Mr. MV. Now I'm not going to get gargoyles forever. But Hellhounds, like, okay, so most of the time it's about an average of 5. And the one time that I've had a practice run go arrest me, it was 25th try for the gargoyles showing up. They're usually the easy one for me, though. Now the Hellhounds is one where we're going to get those spawns happening here. And Hellhounds are probably the most dangerous thing in this game for a couple of reasons. There is basically a flame breath that they have, which kind of doesn't really check your armor, but there's a second glitch, which is that the wired reflexes that Starks has equipped from the beginning, you can't remove them. It makes his melee combat much better, makes him attack faster, but instead of like every couple of frames that it checks the Hellhound breath for damage, it does it like every frame. So Hellhounds are like the super awful thing that once I finish getting this pelt, I never want to see him again.
You know, Hellhounds, they act almost like Agamas, you know?
I wouldn't say that they're that cute and cuddly. Oh, there are those Hellhounds. Let's find if we can get them. All right, they're up on the top here. That's great. I can probably get them pinned out. There's one pelt. That's all I need. And it looks like the other ones are kind of coming down. So if I can get out of their aggro radius, even though we have not killed them all, let me out. And that is the first 2 things that Spirit Eyes wants. Reasonable time going throughout there. The last thing that he wants, and this is where Bob's advice may not be fully followed, is that he does want a dragon feather. So fortunately, we don't have to kill the dragon because dragons are, of course, just like gigantic skyscrapers that will destroy you. But we're going to go befriend the dragon here in a little bit, and that's how we're going to get this last bit of the quest out of the way. Okay, checked in.
So does Shadowrun, is it just Seattle area, or is this just this game that's focusing on this area?
So the basic premise of Shadowrun is across the world this has happened, but
Okay.
Seattle is where a lot of the storyline is set and like the main focus of the universe. So if you think about like Dungeons and Dragons type adventures where you have certain recurring areas.
Yeah,
the
Forgotten
Seattle area-
Realms.
Yeah, this is the Forgotten Realms is Seattle in this game.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to do another Shinsharak trip here. This is going to be double duty. We've got to turn in our Feather Quest and also go ahead and drop some pie off at Red Buffalo Woman's house. So I'm going to be doing some walking. You've seen this walk before, so I think this is a great time to go ahead and give Bob another donation opportunity while I'm doing it before we get into the hot and heavy parts of the
Greatly
game.
appreciated. David K.I. sends $100 and says, "What do you mean I can't be king? I want to give a huge thank you to Laurie and Corey for joining me on my run. It meant a lot to me. And I also want to give shout-outs to the tech crew for making this run possible. This event doesn't happen without you. Thank you."
And David, thanks again for that wonderful questing for glory there. That's been in the marathon or in events that you've run, High Spirits,
Yeah,
a couple times.
I heard there was some small event that was created with the Quest for Glory namesake in it.
Tell us a little bit about that, because that's something that, you know, not everybody can go into these big marathons. So you got like the Games Done Quick events,
Yeah.
the RPG Limit Breaks, but there's all kinds of online marathons.
So there
that
was
are a great one to get started with.
Marathon a couple years ago that I created that you can find here on the RPG Limit Break channel, usually every November, and it's called Questing for Glory. It's basically an online-only marathon. It's no charities. It's just a chance for runners to play RPGs, to get a chance to show them off, especially lesser-known ones, bigger ones, new runners, old runners, and yeah, we're pretty much very inclusive when it comes to all RPGs, and we've had it 2 years so far, and it's been extremely successful. And I look forward to working with Plexel and RPG Limit Break for year 3 later in the year.
And it's really awesome, because it means that there's more stuff on the RPG Limit
More
Break channel.
RPGs.
That's always what we want to see around here. All right, so we're at the Shinsharak. I'm going to go ahead and say that we don't want to take the helicopter ride out. Very important that I don't misclick that, because we have to do the Liquor Tricks. And the Liquor Tricks is basically about halfway to the Shinsharak in terms of the way that it's linked up in there. Just one of the dragons in the world. For some reason, this dragon is being harassed by Renraku's strike team. And these guys are so totally ineffectual that I have no idea how they're pinning a dragon down. We're going to go ahead, give them a visit. This whole case sequence, by the way, it's just like a Zelda Lost Worlds, or basically the Lost Forest area. So when you walk around in here, every time you go through there, there is simulate the same maps, but they don't always go to the same destinations. Sometimes they loop you back into odd places. And so this is one of the things that I was frustrated with when I played Shadowrun casually, is that, first of all, the world's really, really big. Tons of buildings, tons of areas they can go to, not all of which are needed for the main storyline or even have bits of quest in them. And then you get to this section where all of those careful bits of mapping. I always love the maps in a lot of the 80s RPGs. Like if you think about the modern one, like Etrian Odyssey, which is the one that's kept up the mapping spirit. It used to do that for like every single RPG.
Dungeon crawlers, mazes.
But whenever you have like these loopy things where there's no clear rhyme or reason why you're going around in circles, that's when it just like frustrates the map maker in you, and it becomes really tough to figure out where to go. But we've managed to solve the puzzle. We got into the Licatrix's cave. There's a strike team going to try to draw their attention onto Stark here. There we go. So he's got all these upgrades, and his body armor basically means that the low caliber weapons are just going to bounce right off of him. Josh, on the other hand, he is made out of tissue paper, but we're going to do a death warp out of here once we get this feather. So go ahead. And Licatrix has a but thou must, where if you keep saying, oh, I was just here in the neighborhood, he says, try again. The other answer is the correct one. So let's go ahead, grab that feather there, and dismiss Stark from our party. Every time you death whip, you're going to dismiss the runners. Also because if you die, they just go away naturally. So there's no benefit keeping around. And, oh, there's Joshua down again. So quick trip back with
Poor
our
Dan.
feather in hand.
I mean,
I would say Dan is a little bit more competent than Joshua in some things, which is a big stretch if you've ever met Dan. But the difference is that Dan is guarding the floor with his life. Like, that floor is not going to attack the rest of your party. In this game, like, you get attacked by these invisible banner snatches, you're probably in need of a good floor watcher. We'll go right back here to pull up here, grab Stark again. So once you have Stark, he's free to recruit, but there's 100 new yen cover charge to get to the building. So basically he costs 100, which is much cheaper than most of the other runners that are out there.
yeah, the other runners out there donated their goods, so you can keep getting them.
All right, one more. Well, there's a couple more trips back to Redmond. This is to go rescue Eileen Two-Fist. So Eileen is the other samurai. Stark and Eileen are like the two best samurais in the game. Eileen you just get as part of the main storyline. She's the opposite. She's got some really low starting stats and no equipment, but she levels up amazingly. So I would like recommend like Eileen's probably the person you want to want, or get like double samurai because they're a really good class here overall. Now normally there's a big prison break sequence out of Hollywood Prison, but we're gonna just talk to Mr. Murderer here, say have a nice day, and now there's a glitch which causes Eileen to spawn into like every jump house in the game, because they did this little bit of a hack to make her appear in the prison after this break-in sequence. But we're just going to go in here with Ricky, where there's never supposed to be two runners together, and we can activate Eileen. Her hitbox is her foot for some reason. Like, it's a really funky little one in there, but we got her now. So her quest is now done. That's going to be our last little bit of Indian friendship that we need to grab. So we can go back over to Council Island, turn in the Licatrix Feather, which this quest storyline has been all about trying to figure out who is actually the main bad guy. We have no idea why we're here. We just showed up in Redmond one day trying to figure out what was going on. And now we got some info. So one more drop into Spirit Eyes here. Finally can be done with this guy. He's not going to give me any more quest to find rat tails or rusty boots or anything like that. You get this little plot sequence here where Thun is evidently the big bad guy. So he is basically a jackal god from Egypt, and they're trying to summon him into the universe. So some kind of demons coming in, blah, blah, blah. You know the RPG storyline about the big bad evil guy. And so we got to stop him.
And you're always going to be 5 minutes late?
We're actually mostly on time on this one.
Okay.
So this one is going to subvert that a little bit, but all the rest of your expectations are going to be fully met by Thun here at the end.
Them tropes, yo.
Well, it's good that we got a villain, because I was starting to think this was just an MMO with a bunch of side quests.
I mean, if you're playing this game casually, you're probably just spending hours doing the hacking mission runs. Oh, man, these hellhounds. All right, I got some med kits. Let's try to get Stark up there. Again, these are the worst thing to find. All right, got him. But overall, like, you probably spend just so much time on the hacking missions. Like, you gain favor with the syndicates, who are like the mafia groups, and they can give you some illicit goods to break into corporations. Like, there's all kinds of really cool plot storylines. We're just having to skip most of them because, first of all, we don't need the keys. So unlocking all the doors is one of the really big parts that allows us to go super fast in here. But also because, like, the combat armor upgrades and the super weapons and all that, you don't really need them to win the game. As you can see, if you're relatively good with your reflexes, You can take out a lot of the random encounters here with a decent class weapon. And at the final boss, there is just like a big, gigantic pile of healing I'm going to bring with me. That's enough to get through the fight. And that's the way that I treat most of this run, is be like super undergeared, underleveled, but move as fast as possible so that people cannot keep up with you.
And bring lots and lots of medkits.
Lots of medkits and lots of bandages too. I mean, Joshua is supposed to have a healing ability as a Gator Shaman. Healing is actually his bonus ability.
Oh, so he does have something.
But he just never uses it. So the AI in this game, pretty similar in terms of quality to the AI in Dragon Warrior 4. So, like, they have good stuff, but they never do the right thing.
But they wave their sword of lethargy.
High Spirits has played a lot of Dragon Warrior 4. We got Dragon Quest 4 later in the week, which is the DS version that allows you to actually control your characters, which I think takes about 90% of the fun out of the game, but it's still really, really fun to play. So hopefully you guys can tune in to Clear Tonic's run for that. I believe Thursday night. Wow, another...
Is it Thursday or Friday night? I always forget which one.
It is coming later this week. Check the schedule.
Sometime this week, this marathon.
There will be more Dragon. I'm wearing my Dragon Warrior shirt because today is the Dragon Warrior randomizer race.
Yeah,
that's
we'll
going to be
that. Not that far from
not
now.
next, which is Planescape Torment, but after that is where we're going to have our Dragon Warrior randomizer crew.
It's actually happening on the 10th, so that will be Friday.
All right, so Dragon Quest 4 DS on Friday. Dragon Warrior randomizer coming soon. Both High Spirits and I put our donation incentives towards having Taloon as the sprite for that game, because Taloon is, of course, your best character ever.
So, just an update on that. Currently, the Dragon Warrior randomizer player sprite is going to be the Black Mage.
I mean, it's pretty good. I'm going to say it's still pretty good,
that's
but not as good as
basically
Taloon.
Dan. That's basically Dan.
I mean, if you want Taloon, you gotta do some work, because the Black Mage has $235, and Taloon's lagging only slightly behind at $68.
All right, guys, get your donations in.
Well, Netta just finally let him go out and be a shopkeeper now, so he has time to grow.
All right, so that was the karma system I just did. You go to an inn, you spend your karma points. I needed to bump up the reputation on Joshua to get into this next area. That's the only thing that you're absolutely required to do for karma in the entire speedrun. But I also grab a little bit of body as well for Starcade. I'll grab body for the other runners I'm going to use in the final boss as well, just to get body's basically your equivalent of hit points. So every point of body you get another 10 hit points or so. That helps a lot for. I mean, you can see just how Joshua dies almost instantaneously.
Yeah, like every 2 hits.
I have a donation with a question for you. The question is, what's your favorite Megacorp? And don't let my title influence your decision. And that was sent by the Horizon PR department.
I mean, I gotta say, in this game, Renraku is my favorite because they're the evil guys. They're the really, really evil corps. Like, everybody's a little bit evil in this game, but they're, like, more so than most.
If those of you out there that have a corporate sin want to say you're their favorite, maybe donate some more money to the marathon and we might favor you.
I mean,
got to build that reputation.
We got a little bit more time here, so I'm going to do the side quests here. So we got Mako we just took out, and then Ito Ogami here is a really cool dude. He just brings his entire office to the bar. So we're back in Matchstick Club, which is where we recruited Rihanna earlier. And we're going to take another group down here. So nice. Luring the melee guy into the line of fire there. Oh, I need to put some more clips onto Stark. So that's why the problem with the shotgun is you run out of ammo before you finish the game there. But I pulled a whole bunch of clips off earlier. And clips are just like a percentage load, so you can transfer them between any weapons that you want. There we go. There. I don't know why he brings his desk to the bar, but it is now destroyed. So that is the last little bit that we need to be able to get into Renraku with. I'm going to drop these medkits. We're not going to need them much after this little bit of the game.
Can I bash a couple of donations out here?
Yes, we're about to the end games. This is your last chance to get donations.
All right, here we go. Dragon37398 donates $10 and say you find a cred stick with $10 on it. The irony wears off after a few minutes. Theronia donates $25 and says beautiful run and excellent commentary as always. I love this guy. Please don't be too mad at Dan. Also, hey, High Spirits. Hotbot donates $25 and says, thanks for the awesome commentary between Geyer, High Spirits, and Bob. I'm sure they can almost make the history of Melmond audio book worth listening to.
Nobody can make Melmond
almost. Good luck. Have fun.
All right, thank you very much. I grabbed Ricky back again because we're going to do another one of those corporation break-ins. This is Renraku, and There's just like in the lore of Shadowrun, the corporations rise and fall. Like basically, they're the equivalent of nation states. So once you have a big enough corporation, you have your own independence, and they'll be conquered by various other corporations. That's like the meta game of Shadowrun, is the corporation play. You're usually just the peon that is doing things at their whims. Let me see if I can sneak past that camera there. Looks good there.
But can you own your own corporation someday?
I don't think so. Like that is a big jump from plain old Shadowrunner to the corporate lifestyle. We instead are going to be doing things the sneaky and stealthy way. This is also where you have to have, like, I think it's level 5 Matlock cards. It's something ridiculous where it's impossible to get into this place. But because we unlocked all the doors in the game, we can just go ahead, stroll right in, and grab 1/2 of the plans for where Thon is going to be resurrected. And so that is this place right here. And it triggers the alarm, but it's actually kind of funky about how they implemented it. They assumed you wouldn't have an alarm already active, so all they do is just toggle it. So if the alarm's already on, it turns it off instead of turning it on. Do a quick death warp back out of there. And,
speaking of alarm, the Horizon PR department are back again, and they said your answer has been noted and your P2.0 score will be updated accordingly.
Luckily, I have a guy that can sneak me through those places, so I should be okay once I get Stark back here for the last time. He's going to be my bodyguard throughout this. So this is now the very, very late game section, and it also kind of feels a little bit like there was some stuff cut out. So we went to the Shinsharak. We got contact with Jane Foster, who's one of the big luminaries of the Shadowrun universe. So we can talk to Harlan Quinn here, who's another big luminary. These are basically people that kept their magic around between the ages. So they're like they're not like the deities of the universe, but they're like super, super powerful. And they're generally involved in a lot of storylines overall. This is actually the Sega Genesis game, the only one of the video games, I believe, that is actually canonical in the Shadowrun storyline.
That is correct, yeah.
So Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, whole bunch of PC games as well have come out. So they're still releasing Shadowrun video games. And it's really nice because you don't need gigantic sacks of dice to play them.
Can I get one more in?
Sneak it in here while I'm doing the shopping.
This is a $10 donation from Eat the Pen, who says, inspired by an earlier donation, and I apologize to everyone in advance. I met him on a Monday, and my heart stood still. Shadowrun, run, Shadowrun, run. Somebody told me his name was Bill. Shadowrun, run, Shadowrun, run.
We'll take your donation regardless. Thank you very much. We are not.
If I didn't know better, I think Dine donated that.
I guess I'm the only one here lost.
Probably for the best. All right, so this is where it feels like they cut something out. So there are these two Mr. Johnsons, and the Mr. Johnsons are kind of the quest givers in the game. They disappeared early. They don't really explain why, but they turned out to be Thon's henchmen. And one of them has the other half of the map, but you just go down here to this house, and it's like, all right, here's a map sitting here. We're done. And that's where I kind of feel like there should be more questing, because the Red Rock area, that's like, you had to do a whole bunch of stuff normally in the game to be able to break in there. But now we got the two halves of the map. We're going to go back, visit Harlequin one more time, and that's actually access to the end boss. So we are basically like 90 seconds away from being done here normally in a speedrun. But I'm going to do a little bit of safety, which is to drop out an inn, do some more upgrades to my body. That way we don't have to worry about Ricky and Joshua dying nearly as often during the final boss fight. And I'm ignoring all these quests. So usually in the quests, there is kind of like two versions of like all the quests, one of which if you answer a positive response to, it turns out you picked the wrong one. So it's always a little bit of a dodgy situation to do those. And so for the speedrun, you just want to ignore all of them. But it's a way to get a lot of interesting stuff for the universe out of the way. It's just every couple of seconds going to be some type of quest happening overall. Normally things that like, oh, like here's this grenade vendor selling you some illegal shady grenades. Or it could be the cops that are trying to bust you for buying illegal grenades. And that's where you have to be a little bit careful about some of those. There's my last conversation with Harlequin there. Let's do one last safety save. He does warn you that, oh, this is, by the way, the point of no return. We're going into the tomb here. And this is normally a really tough stretch. There's a whole bunch of these heavy armed machine gun dudes that you're locked in here with. But remember, we unlocked all the doors in the game, so we're just going to walk right past them and ignore this entire sequence for it and go into the final boss fight here. And you have what looks like a rat wearing a robe who is the final boss, and then this big guy in the middle is the final boss. So they didn't quite get the character model portrait there, quite what I would consider accurate for it. We're just going to give him a couple shots. Once the two henchmen go down, it's basically a time fight here. So we're going to have to get characters up so that we have some targets for Thon to go after. And I just like shooting with the shotgun, even though it doesn't really do much once you have the minimum amount of health done. There's also a glitch that if you have hacked the game to do too much damage, it will break this sequence entirely for liquor tricks coming in at the end. So you have to be a little bit careful that you don't go crazy with like the super weapons and things. Because I've got none of that stuff, though. We're going to be perfectly fine, and that is Shadowrun time.
Oh, look, a dragon.
He's back. I mean, I just left. Like, hopefully Joshua and Ricky get the message that we're out of here. Yep, there they go.
There you go.
And now you get your little bit of epilogue sequence. There's a whole bunch of stuff that this guy is wearing that I have never gotten to, like the heavy combat armor. I don't even know what that weapon is, but that's how we beat Thon. We trapped him in a gigantic tomb of Ori Halcom that he can never escape from, and that is
And where was that tomb when you
Universe.
were fighting him?
Don't sweat
In the bar?
details.
In the bar?
Yeah, it was in the back of the bar. You had to go check for it.
Before you go, Geyer, the Az Technology Mega Corporation would like to thank you for your interest in Az Technology Mega Corporation. And we here at the Az Technology value your mental health.
Thank you very much. I want to thank two people as well. Reinhold, who was here but unfortunately is not feeling well, wasn't able to do commentary. He's a Shadowrun runner. We also have Nooster, who is the person that I got a lot of the tips from when I was doing my runs for it. It was like, oh, by the way, you can just break out of prison by going to this house instead of doing a 2-minute sequence. He helped a lot for getting the time down. I'm really thrilled. 45 minutes was basically what I targeted this route at. We had a great time doing it. Hope you had a great time with Shadowrun as well. And thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the runs.
Thanks.
Let's hear it one more time for Joe.